sponsor for today. So you'll meet her in just a moment. We want to welcome our audience. Please subscribe, ask your questions live. We're going to also have Gary here with us today. He'll come in the second half. But I would like to tell you a little bit about our guest today. And her name is Chrissy McGarry. And Chrissy McGarry is the Chief Operating Officer at Second Front Systems, a national security software company accelerating the adoption of disruptive technologies by the U.S. government. The proud wife to Matt and mom to Leo and Michael, Chrissy is changing the narrative around what successful leadership as a working mom and tech startup executive looks like. Chrissy has emerged as one of the new female leaders in the defense tech space, even without military experience, although she supports. So military experience, a force multiplier with 12 plus years experience scaling brands such as Red Bull and Salesforce. Chrissy brings fresh viewpoints from the private sector and as a mom of two to challenge and enhance the status quo in defense tech and startups alike. She is on a mission to guide others and especially women and working moms to realize their potential and power just as she has. So please join me in welcoming Chrissy to the show. Hi, Chrissy. How are you?
So good to see you, Shelly. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, well, thank you for being here today. And we really appreciate you being on the show. And I know you are in sunny Florida right now, so you're not even home. You're on vacation with your boys and your family. So, we're happy to have you here, Chrissy. And, just out of the gate, let's talk about, number one, we appreciate the sponsorship. Most definitely. And we want to hear a little bit about the company. Why don't you tell us about Second Front Systems?
Yeah, Second Front is a national security software company. So we're in the defense tech and cybersecurity space. And we help to accelerate the adoption of cutting edge software for the US government and allies, users, and warfighters. So essentially, we have this platform called Game Warden, which is more or less like a trusted third party platform that helps provide a distribution network of government secured applications.
Oh, okay. And how long have you been with the company?
I have been with Second Front for a little over 5.5 years now.
5.5 years. Wow.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, because it's in the kind of the technology space and, with the security, how would you say when you became part of this company, what was kind of the lead that brought you into working with this company?
Yeah. So having, been in the beverage industry for about 5.5 years and then getting into this tech space a little over a decade ago now, which is wild to think about.
Yeah.
The interest more or less came from the tech side of the house because I had been with Motorola Solutions, Zebra Technologies, and then Salesforce.
Yeah.
So it was neat to obviously kind of stay in that place. But what was even more enticing was the mission. I've worked for amazing organizations that have great missions and visions, but to be able to work alongside folks who have actually, been in close proximity to ensuring that, our warfighters have the best technology in hands to execute on national security missions, can't really argue with that, in my opinion. And to work alongside folks who have served either in uniform or government capacity, public sector capacity, it's been really eye-opening. And honestly, it might have taken a couple of years for me to, say this or feel it, but I do feel like I get to serve my country in a unique way.
You definitely are, and highly supportive too. And I know that, just by the work that you're doing and, the fact that you've been doing this for, for over 5 years now, it demonstrates, how much you enjoy and have passion for what you do.
It's been
Definitely.
really it's
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about Skillbridge, the
Yeah.
program, and how it evolved.
So it was kind of cool when I joined. The founders had mentioned Skillbridge to me, and they were telling me about how it was. And I believe it was around the same time I came of like when it kind of started to evolve or at least take, traction and root with some organizations. But
Mhm.
They said it's, this program where transitioning military men and women have the opportunity to go and have a private sector experience, um,
Mhm.
internship, if you will, with another organization. There's obviously some rules. Commander needs to sign off on it. You
Oh, of
cannot
course.
directly
Yeah,
sign, or you can not directly sell to the government, things like that. But
yeah.
you can bring in folks who are either curious at applying some skill set that they more or less were able to utilize while they served in uniform, or
Mhm.
go in a completely different other direction and utilize some current skill sets, but like get exposure to something that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to get exposure to unless they were to get that type of a position, post, having served in uniform. So it
Yeah.
can be a breadth of folks or individuals that come through. And what's even cooler is if you align properly with your company's goals and objectives, it can
Mhm.
be an amazing mechanism, not only for the individual who we full-heartedly support through their transition time period, right? Because
Yeah.
50% of my company are individuals who have served. So it's more or less this built-in network of folks that they can, now reach upon if they were to have some
Mhm.
questions about their transitions. Um, but then also, a good mechanism to determine, if stars align and billets are there, for an individual to come in as a full-time employee with the organization.
Oh, yeah, and now how do people find out about, this program for Skillbridge?
How do they find out about Skillbridge?
How did they find, to be
Or
a
how do
part
they
of
find
it?
out about Second Front? So
Yeah.
Second Front has, in order to be an organization with the Skillbridge program, you have to
Mhm.
get, a DoD approved
Oh,
letter, to be a part of the program. So there are, there's an application process, and I don't
that
think it's
makes sense.
every year, but maybe it's every
Mhm.
2 or 3 years. You have to, resubmit and be, up to date on qualifying as a company that can, utilize the SkillBridge program for individuals who are in transition.
Okay, and that makes sense. And, about being a public benefit company, let's kinda talk about that a little bit because I
Yeah,
know that was one of the things that you wanted to, kinda share, and let's go that direction.
yeah. So, public benefit company or a benefit corporation, sometimes is what it's called, but it's a type of for-profit corporation, whose
Mhm.
explicit goal is to produce positive impact. So, for us, obviously, it's
Mhm.
in the national security and the defense tech space,
Mhm.
in addition to, generating profits for shareholders. But by adopting that mentality, there's a couple of key features that benefit an organization, to uh, be listed as a public benefit, and
Mhm.
it allows us, or it helps to empower us to remain mission driven and focused. The accountability that we kind of set on ourselves, um,
Mhm.
to, ensure that the decisions that we are making, the impact they actually have on what our mission is,
Yeah.
the transparency about what we're doing. There's obviously a little bit of legal structure there, and then flexibility. But by adopting that type of structure, your ability to align with your goals and then what you kind of see fit as, um, societal needs, of operation, it just kind of helps you to reflect on a growing, recognition among businesses and investors for that
Mhm.
long-term success and sustainability, um, for that like public benefit responsibility that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you are so experienced and you have, an incredible background. What do you enjoy most about working, with doing the work that you do and being a part of this, this organization?
It's truly the people that I get to engage and interact with, and
Yeah.
how they think about the mission and how to deliver on it. Not only those who have served, but those coming from the private sector as well. It's been
Mhm.
really neat to see the individuals that we have been able to attract.
Yeah.
While my, heart goes out to those who have, might have suffered from some of the layoffs coming about this past year in the tech
Mhm.
industry. It
Mm.
has been one of the only times that the defense tech space has actually had an opportunity to capture such experienced, skilled forced individuals to come in
Mhm.
and come into this space.
Yeah.
So from that side, and then from the other side, you've got individuals who have been in close proximity to the mission and just developing the rapport and the relationships and learning more about um, having experienced the challenges that we're trying to solve for firsthand. It just helps to really contextualize and make it more
Mhm.
real about, what it means to get up every day and work at Second Front.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And, I have here, so 50-50 split culturally in the private sector. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so about 50% come from the public sector, either
Mhm.
having served, et cetera, and then the other, from the private sector. So some folks, like myself, 5.5 years ago, had no exposure, more or less, to working in any capacity with the government or with such a strong, mission
Yeah.
towards national security. So it's been really neat to see how the best practices and or maybe some of the worst, right, from both of those cultures percolate. And
Yeah.
then because of how we're solving problems and who's been coming to the table and the partnerships that we've developed and the customers we've been able to work with and support, the cool thing is there's been neat things that have stayed and are
Mhm.
super ingrained into who we are and how we run and operate, and then other things that just don't serve us. A great example, well, a silly one, it definitely sets a tone. We have when we go through our onboarding, let's say for any
Mhm.
new hires, we call it 2F boot camp, right? Because the expectation is we bring everyone in at the same level. There's
Yeah.
standards and there's excellence that's expected right out of the gates.
Mhm.
We have 30, 60, 90s essentially that set
Yeah.
everyone up, for success. And you are, coming in, remaining on time and on target. And you kind of just we set that precedent, right out of the gates.
Yeah.
So it's things like that we've been
Important.
able to instill and incorporate that have been kind of fun that come over from the military side. And then from the private sector, it's just how we're moving and grooving in the remote workspace, let's say,
Yeah.
right? There's just basics or best practices that we've been able
Mhm.
to apply that the private sector has taught individuals, and it's been brought over to how we run and operate here at Second Front.
And that definitely makes sense. And the fact that you are, have had the opportunity to work with veterans, how's that working alongside veterans? How do you feel about that?
It's been one of the most fruitful experiences for
Yeah.
a plethora of reasons. First and foremost, I get teased sometimes, but I always joke. I'm like, it's just like Jason Bourne, right? It's just like those movies.
Oh
And
god.
sometimes, I'll
That's
get
what
the
I was thinking
right,
too.
I'll
Yeah.
get the eye rolls. Chrissy, it is not like that. I'm like, just tell me it. I want to imagine this like really cool operative scene.
Oh.
Um, no, so it's been really fun from that sense to learn people's stories, their experiences, and to
Mhm.
just see how they think about the mission that we have set out to do, and where they're coming from. I've never been able to work with individuals with such deeply rooted purpose, because in some sense, and much like most of the folks, um, veterans transitioning out, um, that might be something that they're either cognizant of or worried about losing that. What's been kind of cool is, at least some people have expressed at Second Front, they've been able to carry over that sense of purpose into
Oh.
Second Front without having to be in uniform, which I think is super telling and really neat. Um, so it's just that like extra context or layer of understanding, and I don't know. I just, unless you've worked with individuals who have served, like you wouldn't necessarily understand maybe where they're coming from or learn
Yeah.
things that how they look at things or why they look at things or how might we consider different vantage points or perspectives. There's been, and
Yeah.
not only just in the work. working world, right? Like at home, how we, are as our how we are as a country. Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's been really neat in that regard.
And probably so rewarding. I know even myself working with, our veterans, it's very heartwarming, and to know that, we're serving them on a completely different level.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and we actually have a question coming in from LinkedIn.
Oh,
So
great.
what are the skills people should have to work in your company?
Oh, I love that question. Um, First and foremost, I would say um, the mission side, like true, honest desire to want to deliver on our mission and be a part of that.
Mhm.
And then, 2, 3, 4 to that. We have them listed on our website, but our values are very important to us. Obviously, there's a ton,
Yeah.
but we have a set of core. The first one is mission, but then it's curiosity, flexibility, and vigor. So
Oh,
those are the other 3 things. Curiosity, because we have so many individuals who are experts at what they do and have experiences far beyond that, of which, you always say the collective, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right?
oh,
I
Yeah,
always
I've heard that.
have to feel that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's one of our things to constantly remain curious for our own edification, but also to better understand in order to do our job, right? Whatever your specific role might be.
Mhm.
Flexibility. I mean, we're a growing organization. You have to be okay with ambiguity and with change,
I can
because we have to be
imagine.
able to pivot and adjust at any
Mhm.
given moment, for the mission. And then the vigor. One person's problem is everyone's problem, so to speak, right? And just tackling things head on, with the velocity and with the precision, at the point of times of which they need to be addressed.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate the work that you're doing, Chrissy, and also, let's see, okay. And you are right on. The sense of purpose is crucial for us veterans. That was a comment coming through. So that's awesome. And good timing too. And again, we want to thank Second Front for for the sponsorship and having you on the show, Chrissy. We're going to keep you on. We're actually going to bring on Gary Roman, and he's going to come on. I think he's got some questions for you too. So
Great.
whatever I wasn't able to cover, then I'm sure Gary will have some questions too.
Perfect.
So let's bring on Gary. Hi,
Hey, Gary.
Gary.
Welcome, John. Hey, good to have you, Chrissy. Good to see
How
you,
you
Yeah.
doing?
Shelley.
Good to see you.
Yes, good to
Um,
see you.
and it's really good to be here.
Yeah.
Chrissy, you probably don't know this, but I'm at Camp Pendleton right now. I'm working, completing a transition class this week.
Okay.
Today's the last day. So I try to do a little homework to where I become a little bit more educated about your organization.
Mhm.
So your executive team, is this it's a private company, correct?
That is right.
And is it veteran owned?
It was veteran owned until our most recent round.
Okay.
So it was veteran owned for almost a decade. The
All right.
3 founders were all former Marines.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and again, I think you mentioned Skillbridge as
Yep.
well, and I'm pretty familiar with Skillbridge. And for the rest of the audience, you know, any military service member that's within 120 days of their separation date are
Exactly.
eligible to identify a Skillbridge program and apply for it.
Mhm.
Number one is, as Chrissy mentioned, they have to be approved for the Skillbridge program by the Department of Defense, and then they have to be approved by their command
Mhm.
to be a participant in the Skillbridge program. But it's amazing. I mean, it's on the job training, and they continue to draw their military pay during that time. So they're continuing to get paid for being in the military. And
Right.
so it's really grown. I mean, I've been here at Camp Pendleton for the last 5 years. At one point, Skillbridge didn't have a lot of employers, um, but it's grown immensely. And I'm just so happy to hear you mention your involvement in the Skillbridge
And
program.
Yeah, it's been 5.5 years that we've been involved. We have about a 68% conversion rate of Skillbridgers coming in as full-time employees. And we've had some really great folks come through where either stars weren't aligning or they had a better idea of where they might be best fit, after retirement. We had one gentleman who was like, I can't do remote. I thought I could. I like to go into an office. And I was like, great. Like, let us know how we can help you, and network to where you find your next spot. We try to remain very involved, not only because they're in an internship program, but we have an individual here, Christy Marquez, who not only kind of owns the Skillbridge program, but she was a Skillbridger herself, who came in at Second Front. And she has done just such an amazing job at helping those individuals who have come through the program of having those conversations throughout their internship with us to determine, is Second Front where you see yourself? Do we have the billet match? But if not, that's okay. What do you need from us? How can we support you? It could be something as simple. We had someone was like, I just don't even know what to wear. I've been in uniform for 27 years. What do I wear to the tech event that we're all going to? Which might seem simple to everyone, but for someone who was used to being told exactly what to wear every day, they were like, I don't know what am I wearing to this thing. So something like that to, oh my gosh, I've been running this cycle with the VA for 6 weeks. Anyone experience this out of Fort X? Help me. What did you do? How did you work through that roadblock, so to speak? So there's obviously a spectrum. Everyone's experience is obviously unique, but it is really neat. It's more or less, you have 50% of the company who's a built-in network and community to help support you along the way, no matter whether or not you come on board with us full time.
So where do they have to come? Do they come to your home location where your headquarters are, or where can they take the Skillbridge program for your organization?
Yeah, so we are actually a fully remote company, which is even more enticing and exciting. Predominantly, our work is done out of the DC area for obvious reasons, but attend most of those tech events that you'd see out in California, Nevada, Texas, Florida, and then obviously the Virginia, DC area. But those who are interested, you can simply go to our website and to the career landing page, and we will always have the Skillbridge internship program listed on our career page. Sometimes we even have very specific ones. Maybe we're looking for a PM or a DevSecOps engineer or a software engineer, or a salesperson. Well, technically Skillbridge can't do sales, so nix that one. Can't do that. But maybe you want to learn the back end of sales and do like RevOps or something like that, right? So every now and then, certain teams will kind of figure out what the chemical makeup of their team is, and they'll post for like a very specific job, or if you submit an application with us at Second Front and we see what your background is, we'll be able to go reach out to the teams and kind of assess, who might be in need of and where it will be mutually beneficial. Because that's the goal, right?
That's amazing. You also hit on something that's very dear to me, and understanding the challenges that veterans face when they transition out of the military.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing this for 8 years and helping prepare veterans for their transition. And I have found that probably a couple things that really hit home are very challenging. Number one is sense of purpose.
Mhm.
They've had the ultimate purpose while they've been in the military, and now they have to kind of decide, what's my new mission?
Mhm.
I don't have a mission anymore,
Mhm.
and so that is one of the challenges, sense of purpose. And it was so good to hear what you said about how you help veterans with that transition, because many times it's the need for companies and organizations to provide some mentoring and to provide some on-site support to help veterans with that transition. And so I was so glad to hear what you had to say about
Yeah.
that. And then of course Skillbridge, what better way to make that
I
transition
couldn't agree more. I think it's a great
to the
program.
workforce. So I just can't thank you enough. I mean, we had a mini job fair today here at Camp Pendleton, and then we had a number of companies promoting their Skillbridge program here.
Oh, great.
And I have a class of probably 50 right now.
Oh, wow.
my
Probably
gosh.
about 25% of them are intending to apply for Skillbridge programs throughout the country. And so it's a tremendous program. I can't say enough about it. I'll just end it there.
No, thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. And please mention it to your class. And yeah, anytime
That's
anyone has questions or wants to reach out, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can simply go to secondfront.com to our career page and apply for a Skillbridge internship there as well.
Well, look for my invite from LinkedIn. I want to get connected with you. So I'll be sending out that very soon.
You can count on it, Gary.
That's awesome. I love that collaboration. Thank you so much, Gary. And well, we're actually coming to the end of the show, and I want to just remind everybody we are here with Chrissy McGarry, and she is with Second Front, and she's brought some great information and content for us today. And you'll want to make sure that you check out the company too, because there are so many resources that they offer. And we want to thank them for the sponsorship as well. So Chrissy, thank you. And I think Gary, he already left, but we certainly want to thank Gary too. And one last thing, Chrissy, do you have anything that you want to share just to give some inspiration out there for all of our veterans?
Hey, it's up to us to have a unified impact across the larger mission of global security. It's not just going to be one or two stakeholders. It's everyone, right? It's people holding government positions. It's individuals who are serving in uniform. It's our venture capital community, the education system, and the commercial sector as well. So, it takes a village, right? And I said that before earlier, Shelley. It's all about us being bigger than the sum of our parts, and having that unified impact.
Well, that's very insightful, Chrissy. Thank you. And again, we want to thank you for being on the show. And we want to thank our audience too for tuning in today. And just please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch us here every Friday. And I want to give a shout out to Joe Molina, who is our Executive Director of the National Veterans Chamber of Commerce, and to my co-host, who is Dolly Rivera, and to you, our audience. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will catch you next time.